I will protect you for the rest of my life. Let's be happy together. I'm so happy, John. I can't think of anyone but you. Always stay by my side. I was at a fancy restaurant with my in-laws when I witnessed a man proposing to a woman. He was kneeling down, opening a ring case, and looking straight at her. In response, she looked back at him, her cheeks blushing with happiness. Even the staff passing by smiled warmly at the scene, which was filled with joy, but it was different for me and my in-laws. That's because the man called John was my husband. Just as Lynn said. I can't believe this is happening. I didn't want to believe it, but seeing it with my own eyes, there's no denying it. Lynn, we are with you till the end. Gently, my in-laws put their hands on my shoulders. Their warmth felt like it was enveloping my heart. I took deep breaths to calm the storm of emotions inside me. I had been prepared, knowing everything, but seeing my husband propose to another woman left me speechless with shock. However, a deep, burning desire for revenge drove me more than the shock. Just you wait, John. I whispered to myself, glaring at his back. I'll make sure you regret this. Before you protect her, you'd better protect yourself. While holding back my rising anger, I told my in-laws, please go along with me. After seeing them nod slowly, I walked up behind my husband, tapped him on the shoulder, and said, Congratulations! What a wonderful proposal! You two look great together. Wow! You scared me! Oh, thank you! The moment my voice echoed, the woman looked as surprised as if a little bird had suddenly taken flight. She slightly trembled her lips and gently placed her hand on her chest. The surroundings went silent in an instant, and a tense atmosphere spread through the air. My husband stood by, frozen as if time had stopped, his expression turning to ice. He stiffened but moved only his eyes to check on me and my in-laws. Then he began to sweat profusely. Noticing my husband's obvious distress, the woman tentatively spoke to him. John, what's wrong? You looked so happy just a moment ago, and now you look like it's the end of the world. I almost laughed at her apt description, but I kept up the act of a stranger and watched my husband's reaction. Her voice clearly reached my husband, but he fell silent as if deep in thought. After about 10 seconds of silence, he finally spoke to the woman. Mia, these people are from the company. I'll just talk to them for a bit, so please wait here for me. After telling his affair partner, Mia, he urged me and my in-laws to go to another floor. His actions showed he could no longer bear the current situation. My in-laws and I followed my husband's instructions to another floor. However, the moment Mia was out of sight, my husband began to question us aggressively. His voice was cold and full of anger. From his words, a hidden anger and suspicion seemed to explode all at once. Why are you here? And pretending to be someone else? What are you thinking? What am I thinking? That's my line. You said you were going on a business trip today, right? And then you proposed to another woman. John, we came here after hearing from Lynn. Honestly, we were skeptical. We didn't think you'd cancel your anniversary with Lynn to cheat. I was shocked, too. I wonder if you can give us a satisfying explanation. If that's even possible. My husband fell silent again with a grunt, his face a mask of resignation. There's no way he could give a satisfactory explanation. He was caught red-handed proposing to his affair partner. Lies and excuses won't work now. All he could do now is apologize. Of course, I'm not going to let him off easy, but he needs to show some sincerity. That's how my in-laws and I felt, yet my husband betrayed us so easily. I'm gonna divorce Lynn. Then I'll remarry Mia. What? Are you out of your mind? Of course, that's not okay. You should apologize first. Dad's right. We will not accept such an attitude. Understandably, my in-laws were furious, but my husband, having perhaps braced himself for this, was disturbingly calm and composed. So, that's what you think, John? You're dumping me because I'm no longer useful to you? You got it. Exactly. Before marrying me, you were a well-known blogger making money, but now you're not earning a dime, like a parasite. I was sick of you. Mia is prettier, has a better figure, a nicer disposition, and cooks well. Plus, she's the CEO's daughter. That's why I decided to switch. That's all there is to it. He spat out with a vile smile. His words cut through me like a sharp blade. Indeed, I am a homemaker. But that was what he wanted, and I quit my job to support him. Despite remembering those times, he acts as if I'm the only one at fault. Had I known his true colors, I would have never married him. Fuming at my own stupidity, I glared at him, but he just smirked back. I was about to explode, but reacting to his provocation would ruin everything. I clenched my phone, fighting to keep my anger in check. Well, that's how it is. So, when we get back, sign the divorce papers and have them ready, all right? Hey, John! This conversation isn't over. We won't let you just unilaterally divorce like this. Discarding me just because she's not earning money. That's not what decent people do. Don't you have any gratitude? What are you talking about? If I marry the CEO's daughter, even mom and dad will have an easier life. You should be thanking me. Honestly, it's Lynn's fault for being cheated on. My in-laws were shaking with rage, looking like they were about to leap at my husband any moment. Their eyes were brimming with anger and indignation, and their faces showed they could hardly contain themselves. I felt the same explosion of anger towards my husband. However, I realized that he wasn't even worth hitting. A sense of despair hit me, understanding that I couldn't change what my husband said or did. Realizing that anything I said would be in vain, I let out a deep sigh before speaking to my husband. All right, John. I have nothing more to say. But, could you let me say goodbye to Mia, as a final request? Well, I guess I can allow that. But don't you say anything unnecessary. I'll be watching. I made eye contact with my in-laws, signaling I'm okay on my own, then went back to Mia with my husband. I held Mia's hand and said just one thing. Mia. I wish you happiness. Mia looked even more puzzled than when I first spoke to her, suddenly having her hand firmly grasped and hearing such words. As I slowly released her hand, she nodded quietly and looked down at her hand. My husband smirked beside me, but I said nothing more and left the fancy restaurant with my in-laws. When we reached the empty parking lot, my in-laws deeply apologized to me. I'm so sorry, Lynn. If we had kept a closer eye on John, maybe this wouldn't have happened. This is our responsibility. I know it's unforgivable, but please let us apologize. We're truly sorry. It's not your fault at all. The blame lies with John and me. As his wife, I should have faced him more. I'm really sorry. I reflected on everything that had happened. My husband may have changed, but my in-laws remained by my side. They even accompanied me to the fancy restaurant today, despite my unreasonable request. I couldn't blame them at all. But I wasn't planning to let things end here without fighting back. I had already set my plans in motion, the perfect move to bring my husband down. I intend to make John face the consequences of his actions. Not just for me, but for deceiving you. I will never forgive him. After smiling at them, I shared my plan with my in-laws. This plan might not exactly be the right thing to do. But, I was sure it was enough to make my husband regret it for the rest of his life. Months later, I found myself in front of a wedding venue. This was where my ex-husband, John, and Mia were going to have their ceremony. Having obtained this information, I entered the venue with determination. I wasn't invited, but I had my ways of getting in, so I proceeded with my preparations without letting John notice. In a few hours, this place would turn into a complete chaos, and my hands trembled with nervous anticipation. The ceremony went smoothly until it was time for the entertainment, when the staff announced it to the guests. We have a surprise message from the groom's parents to celebrate the occasion. The mention of a surprise enveloped the venue in a warm atmosphere. However, John alone looked utterly shocked, his eyes wide. That's because he had been cut ties by his parents after the incident at the fancy restaurant. Hearing there was a celebratory message from such parents, it was no wonder he was on guard. John's expression went from shock to confusion, looking around restlessly. Ignoring such a husband, the play button was pressed to air the message. And seconds later, John was speechless. His face was the same end-of-the-world expression he had shown at the fancy restaurant. Am I being discarded now that I'm no longer of use? You got it. Exactly. Before marrying me, you were making money as a famous blogger, but now you're not earning a penny, like a parasite. I was sick of you. After all, Mia is more beautiful, has a better figure, is kinder, and cooks better. Plus, she's the CEO's daughter. That's why I decided to switch. That's all there is to it. What played wasn't a message from his parents, but a conversation between me and John. The venue started buzzing, everyone wearing a question mark over their heads. My preparation in entering the venue was to hand over this audio recording to someone. The reason I had such a recording was because I had recorded our conversation at the fancy restaurant. When John berated me, I clenched my smartphone in anger, unsure if the recording would be clear, but it had captured everything perfectly. John, who had revealed his true colors in front of me and my in-laws, never imagined he would be exposed at his own wedding ceremony. What the heck is this? What's happening? Stop the audio now! John yelled, not caring who saw him as he started to sweat profusely. His behavior was clearly abnormal, sending a wave of tension through the guests. When the audio was stopped, silence enveloped the area. All eyes in the venue turned to John, who was flustered and unable to say anything. It was Mia who spoke up in the midst of this. I already knew. I knew you approached me for my money. That you lied about being single to deceive me. Mia, there's no way I would deceive you, right? That must have been some kind of prank. You believe me, don't you? John was desperate to defuse the situation, not wanting to make things worse. Trying to convince Mia with a forced smile. But what John didn't know was that it was futile. Mia had other reasons to believe she had been deceived by John, not just the data. No matter how much John pleaded, Mia remained silent. Sensing the strange atmosphere, the staff took the bride and groom outside for a supposed outfit change. Then Mia's father followed them out, and I followed too. I don't know anything. It must have been someone's scheme to disgrace us. I truly love Mia, that's why I'm marrying her. Yes, I thought it was just a prank too. So, calm down, John. I was planning on having you take over the company eventually. It's times like these you need to stay calm and collected. Let's go back to the venue when Mia has calmed down. Everyone's waiting. Mia's father was trying to calm things down gently and rationally, but Mia was still silent. Seeing this, I approached Mia. Mia's father looked surprised to see me suddenly appear. John looked as if he had seen a ghost. Are you Mia's friend? No, I'm his ex-wife. John and I divorced just a few months ago. Ex-wife? John, what's the meaning of this? And her voice, could it be that the audio was? It's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. I don't know this woman. How did she sneak in here? You intruder. I'll have you arrested for this. John blustered, obviously wanting to get rid of me. But he was too blind to see the situation clearly. Unaware that his true nature was showing, he resorted to yelling when things went south. This only made Mia's father more suspicious. Seeing him furrowed his brow, John quieted down, perhaps realizing he had made a mistake. Then, finally, Mia, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Dad, what she's saying is true. Her name is Lynn, and she was John's wife until a few months ago. I had no idea John was already married. And he even tried to ditch Lynn after mistreating her. You'll understand if you see the evidence. Mia glanced at me for confirmation, then stepped away to fetch the evidence. It was a video showing John routinely mistreating me. Is this really John? I can't believe it. How could he? The video clearly showed John verbally abusing me. Mia's father was stunned, staring at the screen motionless. John had changed abruptly about 3 years into our marriage, starting to treat me like a housekeeper. I wondered if there was something wrong with me and tried to talk to John, but around that time, he started claiming he was too busy with work and hardly ever came home. That's when I suspected an affair. I investigated receipts in John's car, navigation history, emails on his phone and computer, and that's how I discovered Mia.
Lynn, when did you prepare this video? And why does Mia have it?
When I said my final goodbye to Mia at the fancy restaurant, I handed her a flash drive with the video data and a note, making sure John couldn't see. I squeezed her hand tightly as I did. The note had my contact information and a message saying, "I am John's wife and you are being deceived."
That time. Sneaking around with dirty tricks. And Mia, why would you just contact Lynn like that? You should have ignored her.
I didn't understand it at first and thought about ignoring it. But something was off about John that day, and I got curious. Plus, I believed in John, so being told I was being deceived made me angry. I ended up contacting her. After receiving a call from Mia, I told her I wanted to meet again to prove that John and I were married, and I told her everything about him. John had discarded me to deceive Mia and marry her. It was unforgivable, but there was another hidden truth about him. John, you're truly despicable. Not only did you deceive Mia, but you were also involved with several other women. And you continued those relationships even after your engagement to Mia, right?
What are you talking about, Lynn? That's not true.
Just as John started to make excuses, I pulled out a thick envelope and threw it in front of him. As he picked it up and slowly opened it, his face turned as pale as a sick person. It's useless to make excuses. I've thoroughly investigated you. I had no idea you had created 3 local wives. No wonder you stopped coming home. It wasn't work, you were too busy cheating, right?
You've got to be kidding me. Everything was exposed. I never thought you'd go this far. So Mia knows about this too?
That's right, John. When Lynn told me, I was shocked. I couldn't forgive such a thing. That's why I decided to help Lynn. I knew exposing you on the day of the ceremony would cause trouble for many people. But I still wanted you to regret this for the rest of your life. Mia was trembling as if she was about to cry. Truthfully, I didn't want to do something this drastic. It would have been far better to resolve this through discussion. But after seeing John's attitude at the fancy restaurant, I realized talking to him was futile. And just like Mia said, I wanted John to regret this for the rest of his life, so much so he couldn't forget it even if he wanted to. It was thanks to Mia's cooperation that I knew the wedding date and location, could enter the venue smoothly, and could pass the audio data without being suspicious. John, it seems what Lynn and Mia have been saying is true. I'm disappointed in you, having had such high hopes. Now, please disappear from our sight.
I am terribly sorry for everything that has happened. I apologize for all of it. I'll change my ways right here and now. So, could you please approve of my marriage to Mia?
The moment I heard those words, something inside me snapped. After all the harm he had done, he was still prioritizing his desires. Such a man wasn't even worth hitting, but it seemed like the only way to teach him. Just as I was about to clench my fist and approach John, a heavy, dull thud echoed, and John collapsed to the floor. It was the sound of Mia's father throwing him against the wall. With a low groan, John tried to get up, but Mia's father quickly pinned him down.
Listen well, I'd do anything for my daughter. Like, beating you up right here to the point you can't move for life. I've never been this angry in my life. You've done that much. It's too late for regrets. Disappear quietly before I show you hell. Though I intend to show you hell either way.
His expression and tone were so frightening it was as if a demon was standing before me. I realized immediately that he was serious. Even John seemed to feel it, as he made a pitiful face and voice, dragging his body away to escape.
Mia, I'm sorry. I was blinded. I should have seen John's true nature for what it was. We've caused Lynn trouble too. Thank you for telling my daughter the truth. It must have been hard for you too.
Mia's father said, deeply bowing his head, but the one at fault was all John. I was actually glad he got a piece of his mind. John's face was something else, though. It's inappropriate to say under these circumstances, but I almost laughed. It felt like the end for a villain, didn't it? But seeing that face gave me a bit of closure. Thank you. If Lynn feels that way, then it's good. But John still needs to face a bit more pain, he said with a mischievous smile, sending a chill down my spine. I found out about John's situation about 3 months after the incident at the wedding venue. The trigger was a phone call from my in-laws.
How's the new place, Lynn? And has John showed up over there? John? No, he hasn't come. Of course, I haven't given him the address.
Actually, we've been getting emails from John quite frequently lately. It was all my fault, please help me. I thought maybe he had reached out to you for help too. I was just worried.
That's what happened? No, he hasn't contacted me, so it's all good. Thank you for worrying about me even after divorcing John. You can always rely on us. We think of you as our own daughter. That won't change. Yes, that's right, Lynn. Let's go to a hot spring and relax sometime, okay?
The words my in-laws said at the fancy restaurant, "We'll be on your side till the end," were genuine. Having lost my parents at a young age, this meant the world to me. John's asking help to his parents was likely due to Mia's father's involvement. As I had suspected, this was spot on. According to Mia, John's bad reputation had quickly spread throughout the industry. He was fired from his company, failed in job hunting, and was scraping by with day labor. Moreover, John had been deceived by another affair partner and was drowning in debt. Surely, he would face a miserable life ahead, but it was entirely self-inflicted. Truly, this was karma in action. A fitting end for someone who deceitfully lived his life, betraying those close to him. Years later, by a twist of fate, I remarried and now have a child, living happily. When my current husband proposed, he said, "I want to be with you." True to his word, he has been supportive of both me and our child. I want to live supporting each other with my family forever. I strongly feel so.